Welcome back to Science and Community Track. We're going to hear an awesome rundown of open source research, a whole decade of work summarized in just 45 short minutes from the excellent Dr. Igor Steinmacher. Please welcome to the stage.
Oh, thank you for the introduction, Kelly. So yeah, it's more than a decade. Actually, I started, let me go back here. So first of all, I'm from Brazil. I'm here in the US for a while, and it's more than a decade that I've been studying open source sustainability. So my research on that started in 2011, but I've been involved with open source for a while. So I started developing things and interacting with the community in 2003. In Brazil, we had this big open source forum, international forum of open source and free software that was held until like 4 or 5 years ago. It was a huge thing, like thousands of people. It was like amazing. And I got involved with this like 2 or 3 times, organizing things on the academic and on the open source side. And since 2012, after I started working in research with open source, I do my work in trying to teach people the importance of open source and using open source and open source as a career and etc. It's like when people ask me, it's like, is it worth? Like, are people staying? It's like if one per year, one per semester, somehow gets what I'm saying and do something for open source, it's a big win, and it's happening. So I have students, previous students of mine, like working at Debian or IBM, doing open source in IBM. So I consider it as a big win. Some of them like had their own companies and they open source their libraries and etc. So yeah, I consider this as my current contribution. It's like after you start, you think you'll be able to start as a professorship. You think you'll be able to continue doing whatever, and you cannot. So my contribution now is keep bringing people in and mentoring and making them part of the open source movement. Well, so I'm here to talk about like what I've been doing in terms of sustainability, and this is well known. Just everybody here should be aware of what is going on, what happens with free and open source software. We have this onboarding and retention crisis forever, right? From the start. So I was talking to some people like 10 minutes ago and say like, when I started doing this, GitHub was not a thing. And having people to onboard open source at that time was really, really more painful than it is nowadays, because you need to figure out the processes. You need to figure out like how each specific community behaves, the specific coding standards, how they interact. Like, is it like, do I send a patch to the mailing list, right? The previous like was talking about this. Do I send something in the forum of SourceForge? How do I create a patch? So in 2012, I created this course just because it was a mess. Like, I need to teach people how to do this, because this is not actually industry standards. There's somehow a gap. Nowadays, like we're talking about, it's good that I've been here talking to people, and burnout and maintainers and mentors are overloaded. It's like maintainers and mentors, I would say like there's a huge overlap between them. So the maintainers are the ones who usually mentor, and talking to them is like, I prefer to fix myself than spending some time with someone that I don't know that they will stay. If it's something critical, fix, and that's it. So they are overloaded, and developers churn is quite frequent. Not on maintainers level, but that too. But developers do not tend to stay like for long term in open source if they don't see how this is remotivating them intrinsically or extrinsically. Well, so back there, like early 2010s, I started doing some research on newcomers onboarding. Why did I choose to do that? First, because I wanted to get back to open source. Second, because after a while working on a private company, I saw that the thing at that time was this global software development thing. It was this big term as people developing software all around the world for a company. So offshore was the big thing at that point. And I was managing a team with people in India, UK, US, Brazil, China, Malaysia, and onboarding new people was not an easy job. And when I was doing that, I could not stop thinking about open source. Why? Because it's the same thing. People are all spread around, asynchronous communication. So I said, I'll go back to academia, and I'll start taking a look at this. And then I started to see, and it was harder than I thought, because it's not only the same challenges that we had in industry, but it's open source. So people there, they mentor because they like it. People maintain because usually they like it. It's like if you look back in 2011, the number of hobbyists are pretty higher than today. They have like a lot of industry involvement. And the challenges are different, because if I don't want to mentor, I'll not mentor. In my company, if I ask you to mentor, you mentor. Right? So there were it would go beyond what I had in industry. And then we started looking at what are the main challenges, and it's spread around all the dimensions that you can think about. At a first glance, you can think oh, it's because it's hard. It's technically hard. At the end of the day, you see that this is a detail. It's it is hard because they would follow at that time different processes. There is a strong social component. There is a strong interpersonal kind of relationship that you need to have in these environments. So it goes beyond. And one thing that we figured out that until today is something that plays a role is things are not well documented. Technical things, yes. All the other stuff, no. So who should I talk to? Which channel to use? What are the actual processes? It's how can I answer a pull request review? Where should I go to talk to the right people? So this was not well documented, and it's still to some extent not very well documented. Because documentation, it's a pain. Everybody knows that keeping documentation up to date is not easy. And if talking about keeping it up to date, not even technical documentation. So I had people that I mentored, great developers, they go to the documentation and say this is not reflecting what we have in the code base. It's yeah, I'm sorry. Why don't you update that as your contribution? So that's one thing that I try to tell people. This is done usually I try to go to community-based kind of open source. These people are doing on their free time. Sometimes they are doing because of their altruism, and do that. And fixing documentation is a big thing. And what I figured out at that time, this is 2013, is that when they have documentation, it's a mess. What do I mean? It's it's in different places, it's scattered around. Some things on wikis, some things on SourceForge, some things are PDF somewhere. And how can I help now? Given this key aspect of documentation, what I try to do is what if I get the things that I found that are hard, and I try to organize the documentation that is already in place and show the newcomers as a flow. So just by doing that, I could see, at least my students, they improved their success level incredibly. And they're feeling that they are accomplishing something in a fast, in a small time frame. Was amazing. In 1 month, I had 2 or 3 times more people able to finish a contribution than I had before without this, just putting them in the wild. Because I say these are the main questions, these are the main problems. Where do I find documentation for this? And yeah, it worked out. The other thing that I try to explore, so I will put a landscape of what I've done, and then I'll converge somehow to where I am now. The second thing is mentorship. So this guy there, Steve, is doing a lot of work as of now on mentorship. But this is another thing. We started to see that mentorship was a bottleneck. If you do not recognize the mentors, they will not do a good job. Because they prefer to do the technical work. And we extend a little bit our work on on the challenges or barriers to mentors. Because it's not only the project's fault that the newcomer cannot onboard. Sometimes it's the newcomer's fault. Sometimes it's the way that you are approaching what you think that the community needs to do, your way of thinking that is different. So we looked from the perspective of the maintainers. It's like, what are the challenges that you face? And there is a lot that is on the side of the newcomers or in the relationship. Because again, like we're talking someone who are willing to help because they want to volunteer, they want as a hobby, they want for their CV, and someone willing to mentor as a hobby, as something else. And there are a lot of mismatches here. It's like time commitment, what the amount of effort that each of them would be able to put, and etc. So what we found is that sometimes we need to have some guidance for both sides. It's like how to help both of them. So the community needs to somehow provide ways to the mentors as well to step up and do some things. And last and not the least, maintainers, of course. So we did some good work on maintainers. So we have a good study here by Stuart Geiger. And like, it's hard to be a maintainer. Like everybody that we heard talking about today say like, yeah, it's like people burn out. Why? Because it's all on their shoulders. They do everything. They cover technical issues. They manage. They talk about vision of the project. They are the ones responsible for mentorship. Okay, we know. And yeah, how to help them. So there are ways that we can help them. For one of the things like that we found both for mentors and maintainers, like it's hard to find like meal piece work to give these newcomers. And it's hard to find these meal piece kind of tasks with the right directions on how to find like where should I look at and how should I do that. So we started trying to, like 5-6 years ago, try to first automatically label tasks, not in terms of it's good for newcomers or not, but what specific skills should I have in terms of which APIs may be involved in this. And the second thing is knowing which API should be involved in this issue, where should I look at first in the code base? Well, it's not a big success for all the projects because some of them are more organized, some are less. But for some of them that we tried, it was a pretty big success because I go there, it's like, oh, I know SQL, so what about I look at issues that would deal with SQL? And then I go there and I try to point them like, look at these 4 files here and see if you can find the issue in these 4 files. That was nice. We could make some improvement there, but again, like it's not a silver bullet. And the big problem is that you need to have some effort up front to provide labeled issues so I can train my model. So at some point, we just gave up because it's not easy for the maintainers to stop for a week to give me like 200 issues, 200 pieces of code all labeled so I can train my model. But yeah, there is something that we can do. And like also related to maintainers, we took one extra step. This is somehow related to, I think, what Don was talking to us earlier. Sometimes people take breaks. What happened with the project? It's like, are maintainers allowed to take breaks? Right? Like if I see like there's this thing about truck factor, if the truck factor is 1 and I want a 1-month vacation, who is taking care of this project? So we analyzed a few projects to see if people take breaks. Sometimes like I know people that cannot take breaks because they own the knowledge there. And like this project that I follow pretty closely, that was a contributor for a long time, Jabref. Oliver is the maintainer of the thing, is like, if he steps back for a while, things stop. But yeah, as any other endeavor, developers' breaks are natural and should happen to avoid burnout that we talked about earlier, right? And breaks should not avoid the project to continue, to progress in a healthy and sustainable way. So what can we do? Well, that's something that we're doing now. But what we found here is that everybody, thankfully, 89% of the developers of the projects that we analyzed had all maintainers taking long breaks for at least once. And long breaks is like depending on their rhythm. So we took an individual perspective here. And core developers are likely to come back when they stop. Okay, two good news. So people take breaks, and we can expect them to come back. But one question mark was still in place here. What happens in this period? And this is something that we're still exploring. But we saw that in some cases, productivity goes down, and that's it. It's like the backlog of pull requests increase, and the number of commits and pull requests decrease. In other cases, there are people that replace this person. And the conclusion that we have somehow at this point is it depends on the pieces that this person has ownership over. So if it's a specific piece of code that they are the only person who would touch, if they leave, it's a big risk because nobody else touches that, and we see that the productivity goes down, number of pull requests related to that thing will pile up. If it's a more like a community endeavors, the ownership is kind of shared throughout the code base, people just take over, and productivity and number and pull request backlog stays the same. But how to do that? I don't know. It's like sharing knowledge and having people, maybe there is not enough people with that specific skill set to take care of a specific place. So there is no magic wand or no magic way to do that. So given all these things, we started to try to apply things. And we started, recently we had a project approved to help making this project data.table. It's an R package. Sustainable, because things are going pretty bad with this project. So we tried to put a grant proposal together, and we got some support to work on this one. And this, as of now, is one of our big cases on how we can rework a community to try to bring it back to a healthy life. Not back to life, because it was not dead, but it was really unhealthy. And I'll show you why. So in 2022-21, they were struggling with participation. People were leaving the project. There was a huge pile of pull requests. Nobody was reviewing that. Nobody was taking care. There were even a few issues, if you look back in 2022-23, asking is this project dead? Is anyone maintaining this still? So it was going pretty bad. And the problem is it was part of the infrastructure of a bunch of companies and academic research and statistics. So how to do that? How can we handle that? So we joined forces with data.table people. It's let's try. Let's see what we can do. One key point that we detected was that they did not have a governance model shared with anyone. Nobody knew how it worked. And at the end of the day, it was a benevolent dictator for life kind of thing. And the person was overloaded with other stuff. So it was this person plus one who would have commit rights or merging rights. And the second person was really afraid of making mistakes and would not step up. So we tried to get as many people from the community back as possible and started to try to discuss how to make this project come back to life. So what did we do? So we started a big effort on community rebuilding. It's putting workshops, going to conferences, talking about the project, going to companies that use the project to try to see if they would have someone to help us contributing to the project. And this is the key thing that I took part on, is the reshaping the governance model. like actually having an explicit governance model. Who are who in the project, how to get there, how to become a maintainer, how to become a committer, how to become something. So everything was transparent. We started to distribute roles, so we're even like recognizing translators and people who do blog posts, and everybody had a share on the sustainability thing. For me, one of the key things that we did was we got the community to help us shaping the governance. So we brought all those people together and we said, like, we are bringing up an issue to discuss the governance model, and we will provide like an initial version of it. And I want everybody to participate. And what was a good indicator, like a big green flag, is that we had a bunch of commitments. So we had at least 17 different people discussing in the issue tracker in a community that we look back in 2 years, in the 2 years time frame. We would have around like 50 people committing. So 17 is a good number. Discussing this specific issue and coming to a formal governance model. Not only that, if we see the issue tracker now, the number of things related to governance since 2023, we have quite a few issues still like coming back and discussing, changing, because things do not work as expected at the beginning, right? We put a governance model, but yeah, this is the ideal world, but at some point, it's like, this is not working. We are missing this, we're missing that. So not only we're able to put in place a governance model, but we were able to kind of bring awareness to the community that belongs to them. And they would have voice on how things should happen. Well, we came back after 1.5 years to ask the community how they felt. And it sounds like it's kind of positive, the feedback. We noticed that there are a bunch of neutral things, like we asked about transparency, community involvement, conflict handling, code of conduct, engagement, and a general feedback in terms of if improved or not the satisfaction of the contributors, the community. And you see that there is a big trend towards like positive answer, and there's like a big number of people in the middle here. If we analyze like who are the people here and there, it's like we don't know, it was anonymous, but if we look at their experience and the kind of work that they do, it's like the people in the middle are the ones that knew how the community worked. So they had knowledge, like they are there for like 10 years, they're already reviewers and etc. So it doesn't make a difference. But if you look at people who joined like 5 years from now, we had like all these green points there. So people joining, they find it useful to know how the community works. Let's bring some numbers to the table so we can see if it worked or not. So the dotted line is when the governance model was introduced. As we can see, the numbers were pretty bad here in the number of pull requests, reviews on pull requests per month. Sorry, this is the number of people reviewing pull requests per month. So as we can see, in the last like 12 months before we changed it, 2, 3, 1 people reviewing pull requests. And the backlog was going nuts. After we showed that it's possible, we brought some more committers to the table because they were experienced enough. We had some more people with merge rights, more people reviewing code. We start to see a decrease in the backlog. And 10 to 12 people reviewing pull requests a month. So that was a big win. Because we showed like, if you do this, you can be a code reviewer. So at that point, like, oh, I can be a code reviewer. So we kind of tagged people on who could review code, who could merge code, and redistributed the roles, and things started to happen. Because they knew, it was transparent that they could do that. Same thing with the onboarding. So if we look at before the governance model was implemented, we had like a maximum of 2 people onboarding the project, and a long time ago. And after the governance model, we see like a good trend of people onboarding. again, this is not a huge project. It's like 40, 50 people. So if I have 2, 3 new contributors trying to do something a month, that's good. Of course, there are some things here that should be I should acknowledge. So we had a Google Summer of Code at some point here with 2 new people joining. We had some other internship with 1 people joining. But anyways, this is 3. So we have 2, 3 a month. So if we exclude like 2 points there, it's not a big deal. And the average of the mean age by issues per month, what is the age of issue per month? How long does an issue that was opened in month X take to be closed? You see that there are pretty old issues here. Things closed after 868 days, it's like 2.5 years. We are happy that the new issues are being consumed as fast as possible. If you go to data.table now, you see like there's still a big backlog of issues because some issues here are taking forever to be fixed. So we are working on issues fast and pull requests fast now, so to see if we can catch up with those as well. And just to show you like what these numbers of reviewers and pull requests mean in terms of different people working on the project. So on the left side here, you see how it was before the new governance model. Right side, after the governance model. The size of the bubbles mean how many times, how many events. For each of the people, each line is a person, a contributor. How many times each of them worked on submitting revisions or creating pull requests. So you can see that we have quite a few people making good contribution, like in terms of numbers, per month after the governance model. So we were able not only to onboard people, but to retain these people for at least a few months. So one example, if you look at this user 27, this person is not there anymore. But you can see that they contributed for like 8 months. That's good enough. When they're maybe submitted a new feature or working on something that would bother them, and they left. That's good. If we have like a bunch of people in this pattern, which I see happening here, that's excellent. If you have 3 or 4 people coming, you stay for 6 months and leaving, that's great. What did we learn here? So we first learned that it's possible to measure the impact from governance changes. And we are always getting back to the community and saying like, here's what's happening, what is happening. This is how we are measuring it. Congratulations, these numbers are increasing. And they're pretty glad and they like to receive this feedback. And this motivates people who are joining because they see that the things are evolving. And it make them happy and more willing to keep contributing to the governance, not only to the code base, but to how the project works. Community health is dynamic. What does it mean? It's like, I'm saying like the contribution model, the governance model is changing. So it's just 2 years, but we see a lot of changings coming up. So things that work now maybe will not work in a few months, or things that I think that would work like this do not. So things change, but we need some active stewardship. It's like if everybody leaves it to happen, it will never happen. And the last one is sustainable projects should adapt, listen, and iterate. And we come back to the first one here. Well, this is a nice and a really measurable case study of how relatively simple change may improve the sustainability of projects. And how are we shaping the future now of what we are doing, given this whole new AI trends, and like how can we leverage that and leverage whatever we've been doing before to help communities. So I'm not in favor or against like using AI for anything. I think like it needs to be used like carefully and in the right spots. Thing is, it's not a solution for everything. Anyways, what are we doing? So first thing, can we use AI for sustainability? One big thing that we found is like, it is possible to use LLMs to help scaling the mentoring, especially for people who do not know anything about that specific project. Why? One complaint that we have from maintainers is that I have to answer the same questions over and over again, regardless if it's in the documentation. So RTFM like does not work anymore. It's like, you can tell them, they will not read. They will ask the question. And like sometimes they do not get an answer because I don't want to answer the question. Not even point them to something else, because it will make use of my time to do that. So with LLMs, you can unload somehow a little bit of the maintainer's time and support newcomers who will receive timely answers. Again, like it's not a solution for everything. I'm not telling that, oh, you go there and you get your code and you submit your code. This is happening in a lot of places. So maintainers are also sick of that. But here's more like, it can be something that will answer easy enough questions. How do we do that? By analyzing whatever the project already has. And the second thing that we can do is help maintainers with historical data analysis and providing insights based on the data that they have from the project. Well, to scale mentoring, as I said, like newcomers need help. The documentation can be scattered around, can be outdated, or they just don't read. Fact. Human mentoring is not scalable. Like, of course, like we have one person who can mentor, maybe the person is on a break, what happens then? And we have this big boom of LLMs, and you can do like specialized things with retrieval augmented generation, just focused on whatever I tell it to focus. So what we did is we created a RAG to automate project-specific support. And we provided this RAG with source code, technical documentation, and wiki pages, developer wiki pages for a specific project. In this case, like we've been trying with 3 or 4 projects. The one that I'm showing here is the one that we concluded recently. It was a pilot with Mozilla Firefox. So we had engineers from Mozilla Firefox working with us to help us understanding what are the questions and creating the questions and evaluating the answers. What we did is like we got questions from their matrix channel, and we asked the engineers to evaluate each of the answers that we provided in terms of how helpful they are, how comprehensive they are, and how concise they are. And we used the human answer that was in the chat. You used like a general use LLM to answer the question, and our RAG. So we were not seeking to be better than the humans. We just wanted to see if it's possible to replace the humans to some extent on these specific questions. And yeah, the questions that we got, like just to be clear, were on the newcomers onboarding outreach thing. So you were like actual newcomers questions. And as we can see here, in terms of helpfulness, human answers are a little bit better. 79%, in 79% of the case, it was checked as helpful. But our RAG was 75%. That's pretty close. That's pretty good. And when we ask like which of them was the most helpful one, in 46.5% of the cases, it was the RAG LLM, way higher than the human answers. Because they could choose like, all of them could be helpful, or 2 of them, or 1, or none. So it was an attribute. They were not choosing which one was the most helpful. We just wanted to know, like, is this helpful? Yes or no? Is this helpful? Is this helpful? And when we see that almost half of them, the RAG was the most helpful, that makes us feel like, okay, maybe this is a way to go. And it's not only on helpfulness. If we look at comprehensiveness, it's the same kind of thing, with even more RAG answers being checked as the most concise, the most comprehensive, and conciseness was not good even for humans. I would expect that the human ones would be like the least concise ones. I was like, sometimes people forget that they need to bring context to the table when you're very experienced. There is this gap, like myself as a teacher included, when we are like in different levels of expertise, you forgot that you need to go back and say like, given this, do you remember this? So that's the main thing that the developer said, like all of them are lacking context. And we explicitly told both the LLM and our RAG to be as short as possible because people don't like to read. So when we do that, we lose conciseness, of course. Well, just to finish, and we ask like, which of them would you prefer in practice to help newcomers? And we see that there's a technical kind of tie in between RAG and the human, which again, like, it sounds to me a good result. So we can use this to somehow support mentorship.
Just a quick question.
Yep.
Were the fact that the results were RAG generated, was that shared with the people who participated in this?
They knew that there were RAG generated, LLM, and human, but they didn't know which one of them. Yeah. But they knew, yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. And yeah, again, like this is good results for us. Because like we can help the maintainers to kind of reduce their load while keeping it working. What Mozilla asked us, like they have now a controlled environment with the chatbot working, but they are the ones that request the chatbot to provide the answers. So they are kind of in a halfway through like implementing it to the public and checking it. So they call the chatbot, they check the answer, and they curate the answer to see if it's okay or not. Let's see how it goes. So we're on the second stage, and we have like 2 more projects working on that. One of them I cannot share, the other one is JobRef. And what else can we do? So this is what we are working now, helping maintainers with an AI analyst. So what happens here, like all the things that we learned, it's like that our studies on onboarding maintainers governance exposed that there is burnout. There is loss of expertise when people leave. Data analytics is a need because I want to know upfront, like even for the changes in the licensing, relicensing, it's like, yeah, letters on the wall. It's like, what is that? So maybe we can find these letters on the wall somehow. And lack of transparency. The dashboards that we have nowadays or require someone expert that knows how to read them to tell the communities how to behave. That's like a business of a bunch of companies out there. Or they fail to deliver like intertwined insights on like, how can I read all of this together? It's like, oh, the number of pull requests going down. It's like, does it tell the whole story? No, right? Our recent work demonstrated that some foundation models can be used. Why foundation models now and not large language models? Because we are also using images. So it's more than language models. So what are we doing? This is our current work. We are trying to combine everything as a single big RAG. And we're using different kinds of models to try to understand how we can create a Q&A kind of thing for maintainers to understand. So we are providing metrics. And let's say that we answer like, why did company A stop contributing to my project? Is there anything in the data that can tell me? It's like, is it because like they were getting their pull requests like not reviewed for a long time? Is it because like they are contributing to another project? It's like, is it? I don't know. It's like, why is my pull request number of pull request trend going down? Why is that? It's like, is someone on a break? It's like, should I bring someone with this specific expertise? So things like that. So we are trying to make it as an analyst, not as a dashboard, because not every project can afford a data analyst to check their numbers. And the idea at the end of the day is to detect risks, knowledge gaps, support planning ahead, and giving credits to invisible work, right? There are some things that are there that they are not in the commit list, right? If your name is not like listed as a committer, you didn't work for the project. And this is one big problem that our colleague will talk about more after me. And like, what are the key takeaways from this? Effective onboarding mentorship are foundation to keep our community sustainable. Governance reforms and transparency can revert declines in sustainability and health. LLMs have the potential to support in some cases by scaling up mentorship and helping in onboarding. Burnout and knowledge loss are ongoing threats, and you need community to take care of that. Do not expect someone from outside to tell it. It's like the maintainer will just disappear. AI based on data enables some effective insights. Although we don't have like clear numbers, our preliminary data tells us that it's possible based on historical data. And AI cannot, that's another thing that we found out, AI cannot replace the social side of sustainable projects. It's like, it can help, but it's not the solution for everything. It's like, having something like this is sometimes healthier than having more help to the newcomers, because you bring this glue work to the community. And with that, I conclude. I just want to leave like one prompt for everybody. The other things will be here showing up so you can think about what are your sustainability challenges and how you bring solutions to them. I think this is what we are trying to answer here as a community. Thank you very much.
We have 2 minutes heading into the break. If you were hoping to get that coffee break, go ahead and just excuse yourself, that's fine. Otherwise, let's go for questions.
Yep.
I have to admit, as a tech writer, it was painful to hear that nobody even RTFMs anymore. Any measures of that? How many people actually RTFM in your communities?
That's a good question. Yeah, people do not even use, like, I tried to find like several times RTFM, they don't use that anymore. They say like, it's in the documentation, go find yourself. So there is a new polite way of RTFM.
Read the friendly manuals.
Yeah, so I don't have any, but that's a nice thing to do. It's like trying to find like, how is the RTFM trend going? I don't have an answer. I'm sorry. Yes. So we use like Cognita. That is a solution, an open source solution. We adapted a little bit to our domain because we wanted to filter out some stuff. It was breaking because we're just feeding the whole code source from Firefox. That is a beast. So we had to somehow put some filters on, but it's open source. Yeah. Cognita. Yeah. It's not ours. It just like adapted it. Yep.
What did you give the AI analyst access to? Like, how would it know, for example, well, so such and such maintainer went on a break, or this company, has switched to a different provider, or are those like, is that something that came up in your study, or are those examples of things that this analyst?
These are things that happen, and the analyst can tell you. So we feed them with all the documentation data, but mainly metrics. So chaos, like Don is not here anymore, but chaos was something that we used a lot. So we tried to use as many metrics as we could from chaos. And like our goal is to have like a natural language way to interact with the metrics. So it's like what happened here, and it tries to bring insights based on the data, on the metrics based on the historical data.
And so something like the, well, this maintainer went on a break,
Mm-hmm.
that would be because a user's commits, dropped to nothing, or because like.
We put the data from the maintainers as well. So it's like we had all kinds of data points. So maintainer A, when are they committing, when are they talking to people, when are they opening issues. So it knows that there was a break from that person because it could infer from that data. Mm-hmm. Yep.
On the data table governance intervention, you mentioned that there were kind of like outstanding or like engaged issues or created issues of like kind of almost like the issue back suggested that there was a reservoir of people trying to get involved but who couldn't get involved.
Yes.
But then later there are also like new contributors joining the project. I guess, to what extent do you think that the kind of reservoir of prospective contributors
Mm-hmm.
helped kickstart the growth seen after the governance versus, if someone has a project that is languishing and doesn't have that reservoir, is governance even helpful for the kind of later stage, like recruitment of new contributors?
I think that played a big role because you have a user base. I think there are two different steps. So this was like funded because it was a phase 2. It was a stable project. So of course, like if you want to bring people in, there's a first stage that is more on the community building side. So you need to go out there, identify who are your potential users, sell it, give them hands-on tutorials, and bring the user base in. So I think if you don't have a user base, it's impossible to have people to contribute. That's my feeling. So that's what I tell my colleagues that do like this eco-informatics things, like how do I bring contributors? It's like, do you have people using it? No. So how do you want people to contribute if they're not using? So you need to put some effort and money on trying to bring people to use it first. So the very first step is have a user base. And of course, like we had a bunch of, you looked at the bright side, I looked at the dark side. So the number of issues that were there in the reservoir scared out a bunch of potential contributors. So I see that there was potential back there when we have this bunch of issues with 800 days waiting for a solution. These people could be part of the project now. And these people are not coming back. I understand open source as a one chance to get people in. If they are demotivated, they forget about it. They will not come back. So what we're doing now is like trying to captivate these people that are trying to get something done. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.